5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 7th. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education. Ms. Stoikoy, will you please call the roll?
Yeah. Ms. Coco?
Here.
Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Thank you. Item B, approval of agenda. Number 1, motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the September 7th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you. Item C, opening ceremony. Welcome, our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every opportunity, every day. Number 2, informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, the individual will preface comments by announcement of their name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. All statements should be directed to the board president. No person may address or question board members individually. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen, and for your convenience, there's hard copies of the agenda on the librarian's desk. The next regularly scheduled meetings of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education are September 21st, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. here in the high school library. And the next construction planning meeting is on Thursday, September 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance, Mr. Harris.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item D, presentations. We have one presentation tonight from Dr. Selico on strategic planning.
Thank you. If I may, I'm going to head over to the podium so I can see you all better. Good evening, board. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you some ideas in which we have relative to the strategic plan. Just a little bit of history, as we know that we've had a strategic plan in place for the last few years, and COVID hit, I think, and so may have derailed or at least paused some of our work for the obvious reasons. And so during the interview process, I heard a lot about the strategic plan and people's thoughts and viewpoints, as well as the board's viewpoints on our strategic plan and relative to how it's the effectiveness of it, the user friendliness, if you will, or lack of, and the number of goals that we have and that we have placed in order to achieve. And for our team, for our administrative team, we also have talked about it and the amount of not only goals that are in there, but topics that are covered, and just kind of wanted to see where we were at. So we hit the pause button and just took some time to discuss where we're at and where we'd like to go. And so tonight's the purpose of the presentation tonight is really to generate some conversation and perhaps get some feedback and some direction from the board to see if you like some of our ideas, want to change some of our ideas on how we should proceed in relative to whether we go straight forward with the plan that we've already had, or if we need to maybe rework the plan a bit. And as we know, plans are not written in stone. I don't think any plan that anyone ever makes knows that it's the end all be all, and that there is some room to work and to reimagine it. And I think we're at the point right now that we would like to take a look at it more closely and maybe make some changes. So tonight, that's what we're going to talk a little bit about. And I just have a few slides. So go ahead, Ron. Thank you. So you may have seen this before, I'm sure you have, in our document. It's the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's an exercise that a lot of folks that lead strategic planning and actually other forms of planning like to conduct. We use this as well in education. And so back in around 2019, I believe it was, there were a number of stakeholder groups that were surveyed, and they were asked their input on what they believe is going well in the district, what's not going so well perhaps, and then some opportunities we really have to capitalize here, and then threats that we know not necessarily are just inclusive of Cuyahoga Falls, but in education in general. And so that exercise was conducted, and those were the results, and I won't read them, hopefully you can see them all. But our team talked a little bit about this, and some thoughts that we had were, we would like to review this current analysis, and not necessarily, we have not done that yet. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, and looking at some things, we thought maybe this might go over in this column now. After COVID, things have changed. We do have the obvious new leadership here in the district. We have new folks that have joined our team. We have a lot that has happened. We have a lot of good things on the horizon with new schools, etc. So things have changed over the last 3 years. So the question becomes, should we take the time to look at this analysis, perhaps see what needs to be tweaked, and then determine if any of those items, again, should be revised, eliminated, relocated. Should we add some different ones, go through the exercise of getting some more input and finding out what people now feel our strengths, weaknesses, etc. are. So that was one thought that we had relative to the SWOT analysis. Then we also talked about the portrait of a graduate. So clearly this is an activity, the last several years, I'd say, we saw more and more traction, more and more districts subscribing to this portrait of a graduate. So really focusing on what we want our students to look like when they graduate. What skills do we want them to embody? So academic skills, certainly, right? Social skills, work skills, emotional skills, life skills. Those are attributes that we would like to see in our graduates. But our team said, well, why stop there? Why do we want to wait till a child graduates to exhibit those traits? We want to start as early as kindergarten. We want them to be focusing on their emotional skills, learning life skills, of course the academics, etc. So we thought we should have some conversation around perhaps looking at it as a portrait of a black tiger. So no matter what grade you are in, we want to focus on those 5 areas for our students. Next, you'll see our strategic objectives that, again, are in the strategic plan. Currently, there are 4 focus areas. We're not necessarily recommending that we move away from focus areas. I think that's important that we have them. We're wondering, if, in our opinions, if we should merge some of them, perhaps isolate others, and just look at it from a different viewpoint. Some of the things that we know that have come to the surface, such as our work with equity, for example, where would that fall in these categories? And certainly can make things fit, but we wanted to be a little bit more explicit in our and deliberate in our 4 areas. So certainly we're in the business of educating students, so academic growth would be the first one. And you'll see names here, and in the next slide, I'll explain what that all means. But we were thinking of having 4 areas, one being the academic growth, 2, safety and well-being. So under safety and well-being, well, I'll talk about each in a moment. Then we have technology and systems integration. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then engagement, inclusion, and communications. So there's 4 focus areas that you can see there, which again look similar to some of those on the right. The one thing you don't see spelled out is the resource leveraging. And what we found in my previous experiences as well in strategic planning is that a lot of resources actually are intertwined in all of the different areas, because you can't really do the work in any one of those areas without resources. For example, money, personnel, etc. So rather than having it as a separate entity, it would be embedded in each one of those areas. And then we have the academic, to talk about what each one of those areas would be. So for academic growth, we're looking at ways to obviously improve student learning. And how do we do that? Well, we're going to have instructional frameworks. We know assessments are important, resources, just like our textbook adoptions, interventions. We talk a lot about MTSS, the multi-tiered systems of support that our students need, and then certainly the maps and pacing guides and how we integrate and how those all fit together, because they do. And so it would be our responsibility to make sure that all of those are working in conjunction with one another to improve student achievement. Our next one is the safety and well-being. So a lot of different things happen here. The obvious in our society, school safety is at risk. Our students are at risk in today's society and what we're seeing, and we know that, and it should be a safe place for our children to come. But unfortunately, there are bad things that happen, and so we need to address school safety, as well as, for not just our students, but for our staff. And then embedded in that would also be the programs and practices that you hear so much about with our social emotional learning team and the outcomes that we have. The state obviously has placed value on that as well, is that they have their own separate standards for social and emotional learning. So how we could embrace those and work to making our students healthy in both mental and safety measures. So again, we would address those, and then we would have the security operations and practices that promote safety. So as you may recall, and this is news to people in the public here, but we talked about conducting a safety audit with the Ohio Schools Council. So Tim Delvecchio is coming in the next 2 weeks, and will visit every single one of our schools and give us a report out on the safety of our schools. So that too could fit beautifully right under this focus area. Next, we have the engagement, inclusion, and communications. Now this one is, there's a lot to it, but we know that we want to engage our stakeholders more in this community. I've heard it through my interview process. I've heard it through the people in which I interface with on a regular basis in the community, our leaders, that we want to engage not only our parents, but also our partners, our business partners, our elected officials, etc. So we know that engagement is important. We know that inclusion, we embrace inclusion here. We have a policy around it. We've talked about diversity, about equity, and certainly inclusion. And so we know that we value that, and so that is included here, as well as communications. Again, we now have a communications person on our team who has really been instrumental in helping us really improve our communications. The feedback I've gotten so far has just been great on the amount of information that we've put out and how we're keeping up with those questions and responses that come our way. So here a lot of things fall under this, but we also believe that they will work in conjunction with one another and that they do go hand in hand. So with, as I mentioned, the equity work, talking about the bias, the inclusion, the equitable access, looking at our policies and practices that certainly fall in line with what we value. So we want to take a look at those and make sure that what we are doing falls in line with what we have approved as policies and practices in the district. And then the collaborative relationships that I spoke about with our stakeholders. And I really think we're off to a great start. Have met with a number of people who are really interested in helping our students and have reached out and want to support. So looking forward to strengthening that. And then the coordinated communications that we talk about, we are looking to improve not just our external communications, but our internal communications within the district. So we have a couple efforts that we're going to do. You're going to see soon what we learned about today out of Dr. Cruz's office. Cameron specifically and Jessica are putting out a special education newsletter, for example. And it's got some great stuff in there, as well as our Tiger Tales. I got to keep these all straight. Tiger Tales is going to be our internal newsletter that we will be starting our first edition of soon. So again, things that could fit right in here. And then just being proactive with our media relations. We know that we're going to get attention in the news. We know we have local papers here, and they reach out to us pretty regularly for stories. So we want to make sure that we maintain a positive, proactive approach and relationship with them. So we believe all of that kind of fits together. And then lastly, not lastly, there's one more slide, but this is how we envision this happening. So with a strategic plan comes accountability. And so while we recognize this is the board's plan and that we are going to work collaboratively with the board, we know that we've got some work to do ourselves. And so that direction comes from the board. But at a district level, we need some oversight. So the cabinet would be the kind of what we see as the overarching group internally. And then those 4 areas that you see there, the academic growth, safety and well-being, the ones I just mentioned, we assigned a member of cabinet to oversee. So for academic growth, for example, Dr. Cruz. The safety and well-being, we have a couple different people on that. We have Joe is one for safety, and then we're talking about having team members. So one would be on cabinet, and then we would tap into sort of our other layer of administrative support that would team up. Then the engagement, inclusion, and communications would be Christine, and another member of our administrative team, which I'm being a little vague because we haven't told them yet or named them. So the technology and operations would be Ryan, as well as Christy, I believe. Is that right, Christy? So Christy was asking where she could fit in. She was eager she wanted her own category. She tried to take 2, but we said, Christy, you only get 1. Quit trying to hog the strategic plan, right? So that we have, so that would be how we envision it. Now, where you see subcommittees, this is where we involve stakeholders. This does not just mean staff and personnel. So we would certainly put this out to our groups. We've assigned every administrator in the district one of those 4 areas that they would be responsible for. So that would be the advisory team, that, if you will. So we'd have an advisory team where those those red, what are those ovals are, and then the subcommittees would come under there. So those would be like your action groups. That would be teachers, that would be staff members, that could be parents, other stakeholders in the community who have a vested interest in any one of these committees. We're going to put that out there and solicit, because we're going to need task forces. We're going to need action teams that are going to do the work that we discuss. So that would be the plan, and that's where we would be really involving it would be a much bigger effort on our community end. And then lastly, as I mentioned, comes accountability with our plan. How are we going to hold people accountable? So we have an internal way of doing that. One is, as I mentioned, cabinet being oversight. We will be discussing this at our administrative meetings. Cabinet will certainly be discussing this. And then this is a document that I used in a previous district, and we're certainly open to revising it, but this is just an example of what I wanted to show you. But what it does is it spells out what our goal is, our task area, our goals, and then all the action steps that we're going to take in order to reach that. So it's empty right now, but it would say different action steps. For example, student achievement, we would have an action step regarding that. And then details if we need them, like a little bit more information. And then we would have a lead person appointed to make sure that that person's holding us accountable for the work. And then we'd have a deadline of when we want it complete. Some might be a month, some might be a year, frankly. Things sometimes take time. And then you see I made 3 different colors so you can get a gist of what we were going for there. So each meeting we will look at this visual representation. And if we see all red, what are we thinking, right? We're thinking, oh gosh, we gotta get moving. If we see green, we're good to go. Yellow means we're in progress. So that's how it's a nice visual reminder of where we are with each action step and goal. And then just notes at the end. So the members of cabinet, the advisory teams would be responsible for importing the information into this document, and then cabinet would review. Because what we don't want to have happen, the one thing that I've cautioned our group on that can happen, is I don't want groups to go off on their own, come up with these most amazing ideas, and then come with me to a bill of $2 million or something, and I have to say no, or the cabinet has to say no. So we want to have checkpoints that as they're working along the way, we can see what they're doing. We'll have conversations and say, look, this is a great idea, but I just don't think it's practical, and let's head in another direction. So we'll have checkpoints and measures in place that we can assure, so it doesn't happen. We want to avoid that. So periodic meetings and progress monitoring is important to have. So that's as far as we've gotten. We've discussed in a way in which we think we could sort of steer this, not losing sight of what the previous work has been done, because I read the plan, I read the history, I read the comments. There's really nothing that we really introduced today that is far left that no one mentioned in their comments from the public. So, and again, also not opposed to re-engaging the community, and certainly with the subcommittees, they will definitely be involved. So we don't want to diminish or forget about the work that was done. We're very appreciative of all the people who put their time in. So in honoring that, we've just sort of embedded it in this. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have.
I have a quick question. Well,
Sure.
comment first. I like that form. I worked in nursing homes for a lot of years, and we did something kind of similar that was called a care plan. That you had to review the data like 7, 14, 30, 60, 90 days. So on that, will there be kind of like a flag where you could say like, hey, let's look at this in 2 weeks. I'm not sure how big this document is going to be like.
Yeah.
So you would know when you should be kind of like, and someone would be in charge of
Yes.
reviewing the master document.
Yeah, the advisory groups would be, so each advisory group would be responsible for theirs, and they would have tabs at the bottom too, so you can open up each tab to see each goal. So the advisory groups would be monitoring that, and then cabinet as a larger level would be monitoring the work of what the advisory groups are doing. But yeah, that's the idea. A lot of levels.
The
So-
advisory groups are the red, right? And that's where you
Yes.
assign all the administrators?
Yes, correct.
Okay, just wanna make sure.
Correct.
I got that. Cause we're in year 4 or 5 of this plan, so even if we thought this was the greatest plan in the world, we would still be needing to have discussions about where are we at and where are we going from here, cause usually in year 4 you start thinking of, okay, this strategic plan's coming to a close, so that'll be another lift,
Yeah.
for next school year, really, for the most part, that'll be on our plate as well. So this will give us a good chance to, experience with this model and see what results come through for us. I agree, with the portrait of a black tiger. That's something in the future we probably need to revisit too, because I'm not sure we use the most impactful words, in that, cause I think some of those, if you're doing portrait of a black tiger and then you say some of these words to like a 3rd grader, I'm not sure they're gonna really be like,
That's true.
how am
Yeah.
I embodying
What does that mean?
being a proactively seeking and synthesizing information. So I mean, I think that's a weakness of the strategic plan as we look to the future. We need to think about, how we structure that. But that was like something that we just kind of threw in there, if we're being honest. So I think that's an area for future opportunity. One thing that I think would be helpful as well, and I'm gonna give homework to our board members, is to take a look at that SWOT analysis and to think about where you would put those things today, cause this was done 4.5 years ago. So I think as a board, it would be helpful, and you can send that to me, I'll do the work of compiling it and then sending it on to Dr. Selico, cause I know they've done that work as well at administrative level, so I think it'd be helpful for us to kinda see what our perspective is, and then Dr. Selico can take that to Chem, they can compare, are we on the same playing field to start with, cause I think that's shaping, our understanding of that SWOT analysis is gonna shape a lot of what our expectations in terms of output of this plan are. Because if you think it's a strength and we think it's a weakness, we're gonna be prioritizing that in different ways, so I think it'll be helpful to get
That
us
would be helpful.
on board with that. So, give you to the first meeting in October to send that to me, and I'll send it, I'll send an email, to remind you of that. And then, ultimately, our job as a board comes in, like after the progress monitoring, because it's our job, our role in this is to make sure that there's accountability to the plan. So as this gets rolling, cause I'm not hearing any opposition, so I'm gonna get rolling pretty quickly. I'm sure we'll need to have discussions about how do we incorporate this, into our board meetings to make sure that we are doing our job as a board on behalf of the community to make sure that there's, accountability to this work.
Yeah, and I would be very comfortable, perhaps providing you with a report quarterly, like in writing, and then you can decide what, if you want me to just give a quick overview for the general public purpose or whatever, but, we'd like a little chance to get started, but I would say what would be fair January, we could probably be prepared to have some kind of at least report out of the steps we've taken thus far, because we've got some work to do to organize it.
Absolutely. What's your, guesstimate on, like, establishing these subcommittees? Do you think that'll be that January time as well, or?
No, I think if we get the green light, we'll start. They're eager. my team of eager people over here, right? So we're ready to go. They actually, this is a true story. This one has been very eager. She keeps asking me, when can I send this email? When can I say, hold off, Dr. Cruz, hold off. But we're ready to go. So I think, we already have our team ideas on the red already established, but what we need to do is have a big meeting of everybody to give them direction on what their expectations are for the advisory group. Then eventually put out an email, probably within the next month or so, to people who would be interested with the descriptor of what I shared with you. That was like an abbreviated version. We'll send the description of the committees so people know what they'd be volunteering for with the a sign-up sheet. So that's reasonable. January we will definitely have subcommittees formed.
Because that's one of the challenges that we face is that our community and our staff, probably more so our staff, know that we haven't been super loyal to the strategic plan. So I'm sure there's probably some hesitancy there and saying I'm going to give up time to join a subcommittee, knowing that. So those are past truths that we have to face. But Ms. White, doesn't this remind you of the Plan for Excellence that we served on so long ago?
Yeah,
It's a committee we served on 2 decades ago now.
I know, it's been a while.
And you took our banner down, but we got our district to excellent. That was the whole goal, was to take a full district approach to getting to an excellent rating by the state of Ohio.
Okay.
And this is very much similar to the work that we did at that time. So
Okay.
it was successful then.
Good. Okay. Well, we're hoping to get success with this as well. We guarantee it. How's that? Not hope. Hope's not a strategy.
I just want to remind you, when we discussed the strategic plan as a board, there were certain things that popped up for all of us. And I think it was especially that equity one. I know that I mentioned that with the disciplinary and attendance data and clubs and sports, the extracurricular. And then I know Mr. Harris said, too, for the underperforming students. And then Ms. Coco thought really she's waiting for the goals to happen. So, but Ms. Schaefer also had a couple of good things too, ELL and proficiency in reading. And then Mr. Gomez also, the absences in growth and achievement and learning opportunities. So please keep those in mind when you guys do come up with that, because that was something we all said. And one other point that I will make, I know I gave you a lot of details, and I think we're heading in the right direction with our literacy program and reading, but I really would like where we concentrate on writing across the curriculum. We haven't done that. I think writing is very important for our students. It helps with creative thinking. It helps them organize and everything. It just, all the experts agree that writing is so important. So that is my one ask.
Okay.
So just keep that in mind,
I
and
agree.
the equity. We all are concerned about equity. I
Sure.
think that was really clear, so that's
Good.
all.
Thank you.
Anything else?
The strategic plan stuff is still a learning thing for me, so taking baby steps here. But yep, if I have any questions, I will definitely reach out.
Thanks.
I'll just echo, I like what you've presented, just the fact of clear accountability and clear cut direction of where we're going. And, I think the key for success for our students and for our staff and for our district is for all of us to know what our roles are and for those to be very well defined. And this will definitely help with that, because I think that that's where things have gotten kind of muddled, is no one really knows exactly what lane they're in to drive us to success. So I appreciate this because of that.
Thank you.
Sounds like a green
All right. Okay, team. Let's go. We got a meeting at 7 o'clock tonight.
You can put that, you can
Thank you.
highlight this green.
Thank you. They were very helpful in putting that together.
That's exciting. On to item E, Treasurer CFO's business consent agenda, Ms. Hoykoy.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend the Board of Education approve all items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Any comments?
Just some changes to some appropriations. One would be to accommodate the OFCC safety grant that we received. That is Fund 599. They let us know that within the last couple weeks. So there's that. We did some increases just due to some inflationary different things that are happening in food service and in the general fund, just as kind of a buffer, just in case, so we weren't tight up against what our appropriations were. And then there was some reclassification of some of the career tech accounts, which had just kind of morphed from a while way back when, and now we kind of got them on the right path. So there's an increase to the 011 Rotary Special Services, which are just kind of those services that our career tech programs provide to external users. So our auto tech program, our cosmetology, and DECA, different items. So that's real quick there. And then the donations, as always, there's a bunch. Following, obviously, an email I sent out regarding our crowdfunding policy. And the steps in order to do that. So we're always grateful for those donations. And then, of course, they get official board approval. You can see the number of donors choose. Richardson and Preston are always some of our big time people when it comes to crowdfunding, but there are numerous other ones. So.
And you mentioned the State of Ohio Safety Grant. So since we're mentioning that, just we are over the moon, ecstatic that our district is getting almost $400,000 in money from the state to improve school safety in our schools. So our huge thanks to our administrators that did so much work to make that possible. And then they are finalizing plans on what that's going to be spent on. And so once that's determined, they'll come back and we'll properly celebrate them for the work they did, and they'll give us a little update on how we are improving school safety with that money as well.
That's a really good
Yep.
thing.
But $400,000 is a lot of money, and
It
it's going to
is.
make a huge impact.
Yes.
And I know that it was also a lot of work to file everything for that, so thank you. Anything else? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Thank you. Item F, Treasurer CFO's business. Ms. Stoico, your comments.
Not much. We're trucking along. My new administrative assistant started on Tuesday, so we're kind of getting her acclimated and trying to figure everything out and moving people around to find room, and so it's been a little chaotic, but it's good, and I look forward to having someone around and giving Joanne a little bit of a break and help us with a lot of these new systems that we're kind of rolling out to the district as a whole will be really helpful.
Dr. Saliko's not jealous at all that you have your administrative
Right.
assistant. Thank you so much for that. Item G, Superintendent CO's business consent agenda. Dr. Saliko?
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. I'd like to recommend that the board approve the items as listed in the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
I will, you know what, I'll take the time now to just point out a couple of things that you'll be voting on. One, just to mention that Bill Sherman and Scott Elman are here today, tonight, in support of the motion that or the issue in which you are about to vote. And Nora Beach is here this evening. I'm glad each of you, I think most of you got a chance to meet her. Nora is a retired Bedford principal who has been kind enough to come out and help us in Mrs. Early's absence at Lincoln. So she's stepping right in. She's been a principal for a long time, and she's enjoying her time. Right?
Okay.
I am.
Yes. Well, we're happy to have her.
Really enjoyed it. Everybody's been super helpful, every call I've made to other administrators, and everybody's been great. The secretary's fabulous, and the custodian's fabulous, so happy camper.
Great people.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you again.
Thank you to Mrs. Beach for sure for stepping up at Lincoln. It's our largest elementary
Yes.
building, and it's over 10% of our entire student population in that one building. I don't know if they told her that when she took on the task,
I think you're
but
probably
she
right.
took on a huge task for us, so we definitely appreciate you being a Black Tiger for a little bit.
It's a great experience. Happy to do it.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. On to item H, Superintendent CEO's business, Dr. Selico. Any comments tonight?
Just a couple, those were a couple of the comments in which I wanted to make. It looks like our team will be ready to go now that we have approval. So we, received approval from both the city council and now the Board of Education, so now we can start, and from what I understand, as early as maybe Monday, we're gonna get going. I don't think tomorrow. That's the hope. So really, excited for all those things, good things to come. And as a reminder, again, September 27th, it's 7 o'clock at Bolick on the Laybourne Field there. We will have our groundbreaking ceremony, so we're all excited about that. And compliments to both gentlemen for donating a great surprise at the end, the fireworks. And also just want to mention that our sports are in full swing. We had a number of open houses. I was able to get to many of them and some back-to-school events, which just really impressed with our parents. And I chuckle a little each time they send me their agendas. They're just so formal and so well organized, and I always compliment them. The parents who are really just so on the ball, planning all these great events for our students. So I'm really appreciative of the time that they donate, and they've put together some really fun events. So I want to thank them, and I also want to thank the team. Our administrators have been extremely helpful, and knowing that I'm a little shorthanded, have not only been patient, but also have offered the assistance of their help, their own assistance, and just trying to help me out, which has been appreciated, and their patience as well. We're trying to make light of things, so it's still a very smooth opening. We had some exciting times in the last couple of days, but it's still been a very smooth opening. And one thing that I did get to do last week that was enjoyable was I got to read to kindergartners. And so that's always fun. And, one of those things where, does anyone have any questions? And then they raise their hand and they tell you all sorts of stories, none of which are questions, but it's always fun to be able to spend some time with them. So that is it. Thank you.
So much. On to item I, board business number 1, policy first read. So these are up for first read. They would be up for approval at our next meeting. These came out of our OSBA policies. I do want to make one note because on the printed agenda, the Business Advisory Council policy is not on there, but we are first reading that policy. It's on the online agenda, so just to clarify that. Almost all of these are in regards to law changes, so nothing too major, but reach out if you have any questions. Item 2 is resolution to approve amendment 2.1 to the construction manager at risk agreement. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution approving GMP amendment 2.1 to the construction manager at risk agreement for the new 612 school construction project and authorizing the board president and treasurer to sign that GMP amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I had one question that Mr. Sherman was kind enough to answer for me because we came in approximately $400,000 under, and that is under our most recent cost estimate. So as we look to having that future discussion, there was another $400,000 in savings that we get to take off that overage that we're looking at. So certainly good news, and hopefully that trend continues. That's, you've set a precedent of coming in under budget, is what I've heard, so thank you for that. Anyone else? Okay, please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 3 is stormwater management, maintenance and inspection agreement. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the agreement for stormwater management, maintenance, and inspection for the new 612 school.
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded? Mr. Harris, thank
Yep.
you. Any discussion on this? I just want to know, this is literally the last thing that has to be approved. So once we vote, this is literally the last thing that has to be approved for us to be able to begin construction on our project. And so I think we just need to take a moment to recognize what a momentous moment this is in the history of our school district as we're coming up on 100 years of this building, that today the 5 of us as Board of Education members get to take this final vote to start construction on that project. It's such a momentous and exciting time, and I'm so honored to
Me
get to
too.
continue to be a part of it.
Yeah, me too. You know,
That's fun for the vote.
Mr. Gomez and I have been doing this for a long time, working for new buildings, a long time with Dr. Holland way back, and, you know, so I know everybody's excited, but we, you know, poured our heart and soul into getting this done, so it'll be wonderful. I can't wait.
This is really something.
It is. It's a big, big thing.
We'll take the roll.
Ms. White,
Aye.
Ms. Coco,
Aye.
Mr. Gomez,
Aye.
Mr. Harris,
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Yay.
Mr. Gomez, if I may,
Yes.
I think it might be a nice idea to get a picture that we can tweet this out and put on Facebook if are we allowed to put our hats on? Is that like, or do we have to wait for the groundbreaking? So I think it'd be nice to get a picture and we could officially mark our,
Jeez. Yeah, I can't reach that far.
cover my back.
Where do you get it ready?
I have to make
All I know is Scott better move that star.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
want that
know.
star to be in. I want that
think
star
it's
to be in the construction thing. Next time we see it.
Are we sitting or
Come on.
standing?
Yeah.
I know.
Team effort.
Oh, gosh.
It's too.
She was.
Which way do I
You want to do
turn?
construction on it too? 'Cause
Now,
your list,
now
oh,
it's.
okay.
My list grows.
It looks gross.
It's all right. It's fine. Oh,
Yeah, we want to do lots of things.
Supposed to sit up the side?
It's
Supposed to be up the side?
exciting.
On this one.
I know.
Like-
Ellen's been working on this thing too.
Should I move my car?
15 years we've been working on this.
Hey, guys, I think you should get in here too.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
Yes.
We'll take a picture and then you can come.
Okay, we'll do one without him, and then we're making him get in.
Yeah, one with and one without. How's that?
Okay.
On the count of 3, we're gonna say Black Tigers. 1, 2, 3.
Black
Tigers.
All right.
Okay, now we gotta get the gentleman in. Come on, Scott. Come on.
Hurry up, this is not my best
Here,
look.
no.
You look great. You look great.
I think I would develop some strong neck muscles.
All right.
It's like, get us all in.
All
Okay.
right. 1, 2, 3. Great.
Thank
Lucas.
Take it off. Thank you. You don't.
Hairspray.
I mean, it's on.
You're good. You're
All right, we gotta
So no.
post that.
He's like, I'm leaving mine
That was
on.
great.
In case I fall.
It even has our name on
Leave it on
Good.
there.
Oh, man, thank you.
I'm gonna wear mine everywhere.
I didn't notice the names.
Oh, yeah.
I
That's
know,
what
it's
it's
so cool, thank you.
What a moment for our district.
It is, it's great.
So we'll cruise through this last few things.
Oh,
Number
no,
4 is future
won't.
agenda items. Does anyone have any future agenda items?
Yes, I do,
Yeah.
if I
Yep,
can.
go ahead.
Okay, I was going through the notes, and there were a couple things, and it's, I'm not complaining, I'd just like to know more. Projects in progress. The Western Reserve Hospital, and I think that's under Ms. Stewart. Working with Holly Merkel and the district counselors to find the topics and so on. I'd just like to know more on that sometime, not right away, it doesn't have to be right away, but, you know, down the road sometime, I'd like to hear a little more about that, it sounds wonderful. So I'm excited about that. Mr. Bugatti, I just wanted to know if we did get the locker room done at Preston yet? And when would that be done?
Those partitions are in order.
Okay, good.
And we're still waiting for those
All right.
partitions.
Thank you,
Mhm.
thank you. And you'll let us know when it,
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you
yes.
very much. And then on Ms. Cruz, the reading improvement monitoring plans, I'd kind of like to know a little more what that is or what it looks like. I'm, again, just curious. And, you know, just like to know a little more about that. And again, it doesn't have to be right away on any of that, but, you know, sometime down the road when you get a chance. not a rush on that, but that was the main things. When I was reading through, I just was really thought, wow, that's really cool, and I'd like to know more, so, on those 3 items.
Thank you. And then at the next meeting, the presentation is going to be on the emergency levy plan for this November. Of course, we are on the ballot for the renewal of the 5-year emergency levy, and they're going to talk a little bit about anticipated buckets of expenditures for what that would look like, to give a little information to our community about what that might be used on. And we're still waiting for an issue number from the Board of Elections.
Friday after 4, they
Well,
said
well,
it
there
should
was
be.
some other issues. too.
Yeah.
I'll follow up with you.
Yeah, so that was was Friday
Yes.
after 4 that would be the earliest.
Course, or something, you know.
Thank you. So committee reports, 612 construction core team, Ms. White.
Yes, basically it was just going over things about the abatement at Newberry will be August 24th that week. And then the council meetings where they had to approve our plans and the work site. And we went over the plans for September 27th and the design development, stadium and pack and all those should be about early October, around there for submission and done, I think. Done at that point. And so the OFCC is still waiting on TDA and Hammond to get that all together. The community presentation, we were wondering if we could move that to October 26th, which would be actually the 100th anniversary of the high school. So that was, I think that's just a quick rundown, but that's pretty much what we had.
And I know on that October 26th date, Dr. Selico put that out as well.
Yes, yes.
Did we reply to her
Okay.
about that?
I am free that day.
I just want to make sure we close
I heard
that
from
loop
a few
for
October
Dr.
I don't
Selico.
26th.
know that I had everybody.
So,
October 26th?
to move the,
I know I can make it. I think Mr.
Plan.
Harris will check and get back to you. So hopefully by tomorrow,
Okay.
you should know.
I
Nope?
think I'm
Okay.
good.
Yeah, I'm good.
There you go. I want to
Okay.
make sure we close that
All right,
loop for you, Dr.
thank you very
C.
much. All right, Christine, you ready? Got our next assignment. Getting long,
We're giving you a month in between. That's a 27, 26.
exhausted.
Alliance for School and Community Growth is your first meeting this month.
It is, it's this Tuesday, the 13th at 9 a.m. And it's going to be at Neonet. And Dr. Selico, I appreciate the vast amount of people that are invited to this. Makes me very excited.
Okay.
Thank you. Athletics and Activity Council, you're waiting to the end of fall sports.
The September 19th.
And board policy, our report out was really the first reads. We did also then, at the same week that we met, get a new update, so that'll be coming down the line. But, in between updates, the legislature hasn't met, so we know there aren't any huge legal changes there, so we're kind of getting through some of these other big things on our plate before we stress about meeting on policy committee again. Business Advisory Council, we'll probably take that one off of here as we are working to make that shift to the ESC. Financial Advisory Committee, Mrs. Schaefer, your committee did meet.
We met on August 23rd, and we went over the schedule of investments. We talked about the finances, food service, end of their year, athletics doing well. We talked a little bit about the emergency levy and what would be included on it, and we talked about including, including air conditioning. There was a lot of questions about that. Building project we talked briefly about, and hopefully I got this one right. It said, in September 2019, it was estimated to be $259 per square foot, and now it's closer to $370 per square foot.
You got it.
That's crazy. So, in just 2 years. So,
But they're gonna come in under budget.
but I'm a believer. Yep. Next meeting Thursday, November 10th.
Thank you. Foundation Alumni Association, that's me. We are having an all-day retreat on September 20th, and so I will send out a report after that. Legislative Liaison, Mr. Harris, I know the state legislature is still on recess. Do you have anything you wanted to?
We are working harder than they are.
I agree with that. Student Achievement Liaison, Ms. White.
We haven't met yet. I'm still waiting to hear of a date.
I think the plan was to structure the DLT around the strategic plan. Was that correct? So now with our green light, I guess that they'll probably follow up with you.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
thank you.
Student Wellness and Success Liaison, that is me. I just wanted to highlight Akron Pride was at the end of August, and so many of our staff members, our community members, and our families were there, and I got to see them and talk with them. And a couple families came up to me and just said, "Thank you for helping make sure our district's a place that my child can feel welcome." So something we should all feel proud of. And I got to meet Dr. Salko's brother there too. On to comments, Ms. White.
Yes, I do. I enjoyed the garden, yesterday or last night at 6. We were invited to go, and the food was great, the music was good, everything was so well done, and I got to walk around the garden out there and see what's happening and all that. And it was nice because I did get to see some teachers that I knew and got to talk to them for a little bit and so on, but I really enjoyed it. It's really special. Everyone should take a look at our garden. I think they said last year they donated 3,000 tons, I think is what Steve told me, and then this year only 1,500, but it was kind of a bad year for flowers and veggies and everything, so, but they're working hard, and everything they grow, they contribute back to the community. So it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And last time we were here, I said I would present on the library, but I didn't get the information in time, so I'd like to take a moment and a shout out to our librarians in our library. In 2021 and 2022, total books opened and time read, total number of books, these are audio books or ebooks, 12,754. Total number of hours read, 7,163.73 hours read that our students actually read. Checkouts went up from 6,649 to 12,002. Awesome. And unique users, I'm not sure what she meant by that, but that also increased. Average time spent reading went up from 39 minutes to 116.81 minutes. And finally, checkouts from Neonet people, we were number one with 12,000 checkouts compared to Medina, Talmadge, Green, Copley, Fairlawn, Cloverleaf, Woodridge, Bedford, Copley, Mentor. And so it's to me, the closest one would have been Medina at 9,000. We did 12,000 checkouts. To me, that is fantastic. Most of you know that I am an avid reader, and so this was just wonderful news. So congratulations to our librarians. I do want to thank them so much for their hard work and that report. You know, I love to read, and so I read a couple books. The first one, it's just a wonderful book. It's called After the Ivory Tower Falls, How College Broke the American Dream and Blew Up Our Politics and How to Fix It, by Will Bunch. He's a really well-known author. It's a wonderful book, and I would recommend it if you are interested in why college costs have gone sky high. I remember when I was a kid and first went to the University of Akron, I could work my way. I lived at home because I couldn't afford to go, but I could work 30 hours, 40 hours, pay my way to college, and it was only like $200 tuition, and you know, I could do it myself. Now that is not possible. But there's a couple suggestions he has that I really liked because I've been in public service all my life, whether it's leadership of Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts, teaching now. So I really believe in public service. A renewed commitment to a true higher education can help to heal us. And that means universal schooling or training benefits for all young adults. We know that this would center on critical thinking and civic engagement over rote workforce development. So that was one point. Another one that I wanted to stress was The win-win of making it easier for millions of young Americans to transition into adulthood through projects that would improve our faltering schools or help us cope with worsening climate change are a policy slam dunk. The even greater import would be to signal a national do-over on what we mean by higher education and equal to that World War II era when the soldiers came home and they had the GI Bill, and my dad, took advantage of the housing and all of that, the VA benefits, which has gone by the way, but just having maybe 1 year of universal national service for young kids, because I think giving, it's so important to our kids to give back to their community, and I hear that all the time. There are so many people that want to give back, and I think it's a good thing to teach, that civic community engagement. So really excellent book. Another one I had to pick up because I'm an English teacher, and it's so funny. Rebel with a Clause. And this is mostly for my English teachers out there that I knew. Tales and Trips from a Roving Grammarian by Ellen Joven. She sets up a grammar table everywhere across the country, and people will come up and just talk to her and ask her questions. And some of the things, just to highlight, it was so funny because I'm an Oxford comma, and for those of you that don't know what that is, that's when you have three things in a row and the and before that and you put that Oxford comma. And I do that all the time. I'm older. I guess that they don't do it anymore. Okay. But that's something I do. When I learned to type, because I had an electric, before that I had a manual typewriter, then we went to electric, then word processing, then computers. So I always learned 2 spaces after the period. They don't do that anymore either. It's 1 space now, but again, I'm just an old person. And, we made up a thing of fatal flaws and common errors that all the English teachers would hand out to our students. Don't start a sentence with because. Don't end one with a preposition. But in here, she's so clever about it all that, she said, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. I know they will, but we shouldn't. But at any rate, it was just so many good things in here. And what a wonderful thing that she's going around the country and people just come up and ask her all kinds of things. So it's a really good book, especially for English teachers. It just makes you chuckle and smile, and it's just wonderful. So that was the other book. I had to read that. So I think that's all that I have.
Thank you.
I know
And
I
just say
took-
for all those people in our community looking for community service, they should look out to join one of our subcommittees because
Yeah.
we need those
Yes.
folks. So,
Yes.
keep your eyes out for that posting. Ms. Coco?
Yes, first of all, Ms. White, I am also an Oxford comma, so.
I
we have
know.
that in
I
common.
can't get away from it.
One of the things that I was able to do in the past couple weeks since our last meeting is join Mr. Harris and Mr. Gomez in a dunk tank at Lincoln Elementary PTA. So that was an experience and was not on my bucket list, but it's now checked off. It was a lot of fun, but just thank you to all of our parent-teacher organizations and everything they do for our schools, and they really put in so much time to make the experiences for our students and our families and have that sense of community. So I just want to say thank you to them. I also was able to go to the garden party last night for Fresh Farms, and I loved how our school it wasn't just the garden party, it wasn't just the agricultural students. We had the band there were the art students there painting, and that seems to be a theme in this district that I think is very unique, is just everyone coming together as a community and celebrating. And I went back and watched the YouTube video of, I think it was 3 years that was put out of the program, the agricultural program. And fun fact, it started with a $500 grant from the Alumni Association. And then from there grew, and they got the GAR grant after that, and then things but it just reminded me that none of this happens. It doesn't just happen. It is the blood, sweat, and tears of so many people coming together to make these things happen. And so just thank you to everyone that's involved in that program and to our community and our students. And it's always nice when we can stop and celebrate where we are, along with looking forward to our opportunities and things in the future. And I'm looking forward to doing that more, because I know we will be.
Thank you.
That's all.
I'm up next. I'll add to that because it wasn't just bringing together the community of students, it also brought together our larger Cuyahoga Falls community as well, and all the different organizations that have helped their success. The Good Neighbors that they donate produce to were there. The Elks who have also made donation to that program were represented, and then Mary Jane Stankina was there from the 6th District Compact, because as we know, we're very excited that's going to become a career program next year. And then we also have Lucille Esposito from the GAR Foundation, and Lucille said that as she goes around the county, because the foundation serves the whole county, the Fresh Farm is the example she gives to people of what a successful use of GAR funds looks like. And so that's really something to be proud of. But a special thank you to the Steves, because they were out there every day this summer watering, because we had such a dry summer. And so they are so dedicated to making sure that program's successful. So wanted to give a shout out to our CFEA for the kindergarten signs that they gave to all our new kindergartners. The class of 2035 families are so excited to see those, and it's so exciting to drive around the neighborhood and see those in people's yards. So thank you to them for that commitment to our families. I was also in the dunk tank at Lincoln, as Ms. Coco said, and if you're asked to do it, I recommend declining.
I know I did.
And then I was recently appointed to the Ohio School Board Association Northeast Region Executive Committee for the next calendar year. So I'll be representing our district on that organization. We meet 4 times a year, and they have discussions of larger issues facing school boards in our area. So I'm excited to talk about all these wonderful things we're hearing about here in our district to all of them, and then to bring back ideas from all of them as well. Mr. Harris?
First, just thanks to City Council and Planning Commission again for helping us get over those bureaucratic hurdles. It feels good to put this on, and we're onward to September 27th groundbreaking. I also, yes, I was in the dunk tank as well. We have some wonderful future baseball players here in this district. The arms on some of those kids. I did lose my wedding ring, and I do appreciate some of those who hung around afterwards to help me find that in the tank. My wife was there, though. And then I also attended a garden party. Just incredible work by the staff and students who take care of all that. Can't remember which Steve. One of them got a volunteer out of my wife to help out. So it's just incredible work over there. And again, I can't add to what Ms. Coco and Mr. Gomez said about the community partnerships. Just between the district and all the organizations Mr. Gomez mentioned, the city, everybody, it's just incredible work. And again, it is just it encapsulates exactly what we are here in Cuyahoga Falls. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Schaefer?
I don't really have more to add to that, so
Okay.
thank you.
Item J, adjournment. Motion to adjourn. It's recommended the Board of Education adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Ms. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 6:33.